Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'll be talking about all the books that I've read so far since beginning of March up until today, which is mid-March. Time goes by so quickly, isn't it? So far I've read about 8 books, and technically right now I'm in the middle of a book from Tessa Dare, but I don't think I'll be finishing it before this wrap up. And the first book that I've read is by Tessa Dare, and it's called Do You Want to Start a Scandal? See how cute this book is. It's quite small, and I didn't know that this was actually I think not the first book of a series. I think it's quite late, about 5th book in the series, but I think that this can be read as a standalone even though there are references from the previous books. And this book I've rated 4 stars. This book is funny, this book is witty, and then the conversation between the two of them are just so sparkly, I guess. And as the title suggested, do you want to build a scandal? Wait, what is it called? Do you want to start a scandal? And this book is revolving around our two main characters getting caught in a scandal, which is quite funny looking back at it, because at first she was trying to stop the pairing, I guess, the matchmaking to happen, yet they were caught in it's not an uncompromising position per se, but I guess there was a little misunderstanding between them and the people that witnessed them. So they thought, why not, let's start this fake relationship. And they ended up in an interesting journey, and I like these character because it's not only them that make it more entertaining for me, but also the other characters. There's some mystery around who were the actual couple that were caught in an uncompromising position. And when the mystery was revealed, I thought that was quite interesting at how Tessa Dare were playing it out. And there were certain characters that I thought were a bit two-dimensional. For example, the little kid that caught them in that, well, I guess it's not caught, it's more of accusing them to be in a shady situation, or only appearing in certain scenes to build up to lead them to a certain direction to get them to their relationship. But it was quick read. It was my first Tessa Dare book, and which lead me to read a lot more of her books, of her creations. So next I was reading another Tessa Dare book, and it's a novella, and it's called How to Catch a Wild Viscount. And it looked like this. It's quite small, isn't it? And apparently this is her first publication back in the days. I've rated this book 3 stars because I thought it was a bit too short. I really love longer kind of plot storyline or even romantic development for this book. If it was to be a full-blown novel, I think I would rate it even more. And I love the gothic element out of the storyline. So there was a little bit of paranormal romance kind of hinting. I really thought it was going to be a paranormal romance, but it wasn't. It was just kind of symbolism, I guess, or even just a little mystery around who was the antler man. I think that's what they call it, antler man, or even, I don't know. But I love the pairing. I thought it was really short at how the romantic relationship evolved. The angst come from the relationship between the two main characters, the heroine and the hero, that were previously built. I think it was just to make it quicker to resolve, I guess. And there was a little bit of, I guess, a second lead character, but he wasn't really that much of a big role in this novella because it was really that short. So yeah, 3 stars. Then the next book that I've read is called Dark Prince by Michelle Hercules. I think that's how you pronounce it. And this is not a historical romance book as the title suggests, and it's more of paranormal romance, and it reminds me so much of my teenage days when I used to be so obsessed over vampires and paranormal romance books like Vampire Academy. If you guys read that series, this book reminds me of that. Or even if you've read Vampire Diaries, it's similar except they're no brothers. So the main hero woke up from his hibernation for like 90 years, I think they say. And this was not supposed to be that long. So he went back to this school for vampires, and trying to find out if there is a way to have protection or even cure to have this shorter hibernation time, because apparently they were supposed to be 10 years and 90 years is rarely or even unheard of, and they say that it will be a sign for him to be dying, and he is a direct descendant, I think, next in line for the vampire kingdom. And our heroine is a human, and in this book she's to be at the same school as him but pretending to be a vampire, which is a hard thing to do because it'll be hard for her to eat, for example, because vampires drinks blood and she have to eat like a normal human being. There's a connection between the two of them that's been unraveled in this book, and I think the character dynamic is quite, I mean, it's more of a young adult book than it is of a even new adult or even adult book. I think there's some sort of childishness around their decisions, or even the plot lines a little bit of more adventurous. I quite like the fact that the supernatural world in this book is easy to follow, because it's easy for paranormal romance to have too many spiritual beings and you can't really keep up, or can't be bothered to keep up in my case. I mean, if there's too many supernatural beings and with superpowers, you don't know, you can't remember which is which, right? So that was my case, and I've rated this book 4 stars. So this is the second book of the series, and it's called Wild Thing, and from the same author, Michelle Hercules. And in this book I rated it 3 stars, and this book is based on another couple characters, one being the vampire best friend, who is also a vampire, and also a witch, which is a human, I think. And this book, I really like the dynamic of the couple better than the first one. The first one I think is more angsty, broody, more of Team Edward Cullen kind of vibe, whereas this one is more witty. I think it's more of Team Damon Salvatore, if you're Team Damon Salvatore, which I am, and this has more of that vibe. And the couple are really sweet, except whatever that is simple in the first book, the second book complicates the whole supernatural being. There's, I think, 3 types of witches, and then there's demon world, and then obviously there's gonna be a vampire, witch, human, and there's also some sort of like god involved, which is a development from the first book, and it's kind of confuses me a little. I just like the supernatural being simpler, so the plot can run itself rather than adding more supernatural skills and being to move the plot, if you get what I mean. And then the next book that I've read is called The Doctor by Nikki Sloane, and this book I came across after I watched one of Booktuber called Jason Read Romance, I think her channel is called, and I'll link the channel below. And The Doctor is part of a series, and this book is very spicy. there's a hint of forbidden romance in it, and I think if you like Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, you will love this book too, because there's a big age gap. I think it runs similarly, as in the boyfriend is out of the scene most of the time and he's lacking in sort of communication and attention, similarly to Birthday Girl. And in this book, it involved a doctor and an aspiring vet, if I remember correctly. If I can compare it to Birthday Girl got more angst, got more tension, as in it really plays up with the whole forbidden romance, whereas this book is more towards theme. So it have lesser guilt per se. It's more of lust. They ride with lust more than they are with their guilt, which is fine by me because there are two different angles. In this book, there's I think a couple of scenes of roleplay, because obviously, as the title say, the doctor. And also there's like a potential third party, but it didn't really go through with it, so it's just some warning if you really want to read these books. But generally the book is pretty vanilla. I really thought that there would be more problems with the neighbor lady that were crushing on our main guy, because there was this scene that was kind of like gave my heart a little drop. I thought, oh my god, they got caught. But I think they resolved it pretty quickly, in like just swept it under the rug. And I really was curious how the author would dealt with how the heroine and hero relationship will be dealt with when her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend find out, because her ex-boyfriend slash boyfriend is actually the doctor's son. I know, this is pretty awkward, so that's why I thought like it's quite interesting how would the author deal with it, because it's not really an easy question or even an easy solution to resolve, and I don't think it will happen in real life. Hopefully there's nothing like that I know in real life that have this kind of problem, but reading is fantasy, right? So I've rated this book 3 stars because although it's pretty steamy, well, it's very steamy, I think that there should be more meat in the plot rather than driven by lust. But it's really good, and I think that I will read a lot more of her other books, maybe the other 2 of the series later on in the month, if I can still do it. Then I went back to read Tessa Dare's other works, and the title of this book is called The Duchess Deal, and this is the first book of the series that is called Girls Meet Duke. Oh, how hard is it to say this? And this book follows the couple called Ash and Emma. So Emma is a seamstress, and she was supposed to sue for the bride for Ash, the bride's dress, and somehow it's not paid and it's not been collected, and the girl need to pay rent due soon, like this afternoon, that kind of urgency. So what the girls do when she's in desperate mode is to bring the whole dress to his accommodation, I guess, and confront him, because where's the bride and where's her money? Because it's like a matter of life and death, because, like, you know, she needs to pay her rent. And then she found out later on that apparently Ash cancelled the whole wedding because the bride didn't really like the whole of his face, although it's an arranged marriage. But I think he would rather have a bride that have better reaction than being revolted by his face. So what happened to his face? Basically, he just came back from war and he got injured, so half of his face is injured, deformed, I guess, make him look a bit scary, and the previous bride didn't really like that to have for her lifetime, I guess. And So he wrote on his journal that he needed a new bride, and in comes Emma with her bridal dress to his accommodation, which kind of fixed his agenda, I guess. So he proposed that they would have a marriage of convenience up until she produced him an heir, and then he'll give her like a cottage and a sum of money so she could live easier rather than just catching every payment as a seamstress. She thought it was ridiculous. He even agreed it was ridiculous, but they still do it anyway. And I thought that the marriage of convenience trope slowly becoming one of my favorite tropes somehow, because there's always some sort of like ridiculous but funny situation happening, and this is of no exception. They try not to like each other, limiting their interaction to just procreate and get on with the contract, but somehow they still fall in love and have their happily ever after. I've rated this book 5 stars because I really like their interaction between each other. It's not too sweet, but it's also got that angst, that it's got that little spiciness, but also it just somehow works, even though it's kind of ridiculous. But especially towards the end when they were when Ash was trying to bring back Emma to his life, and then he get caught as this mysterious criminal, but he's actually not. It's just the fact that his face is quite scary, so people assume that he's a criminal. That was quite funny for me. But yes, 5 star for this book, which is a good start of the series. And then the second book of this series by Tessa Dare is called The Governess Game, and in this book it got Asian heroine. I mean, she's part Asian, and she's called Alexandra, and the guy is called Chase. So Alexandra is in the friendship group with Emma, the previous girl, and Alexandra is a watch configurator. I don't know what they call it, but basically she configured all the watches in the rich people houses up towards the time standard in Greenwich, which is in London. And she went to Chase's house to configure his watch in his house, and she went in through the servant's door because she's not really kind of titled, I guess. So she's just offering her service, and then she stumbled upon Chase in such an awkward scene. He thought that she's one of his lovers, but so he thought, it's like, oh, you're coming back for some more. But it's not that person. Instead, it's Alexandra trying to fix his watches. And she thought, oh no, I think I can go back in another time, or I'd rather not come back at all. And then he tried to fix it by saying, oh, maybe, like, if you want, we can do it, and we can do the spicy time. But she really declined it. And then he thought, you know what, you'll be perfect for my governess, because I have 2 wards with me, 2 girls that are his responsibility, which he didn't know whether he's his siblings or not, but it's just the fact that after his dad passing, these 2 girls are the responsibility of him now. And they drove out a lot of the governesses previously already, I think about 7, 8, something like that. And now Chase thought that Alexandra would be perfect for them because she's not really, well, he didn't get away with anything from her, so he thought she'll be perfect for them too, because them 2 are quite rebellious, he said. And at first Alexandra said no, but she ended up gave in and said, okay, I'll try it out for maybe like until this summer, with a good lump sum of money from him, of course. And we found out that Alexandra has been brought up in a ship, so she's kind of like a pirate girl without the criminal. So we get to know her a little more, and we got to find out that Chase is actually like have this fear of attachment kind of thing, because he thought that he's not lovable enough or not able to love the two wards, nevertheless, Alexandra, because he never knew how to do it. I think this book reminds me a lot of the Bridgerton series called To Sir Philip with Love, because in that book there's also involvement of the two children, and also the main hero having word constipation around expressing their love. And in this book, Chase's fear of commitment, fear of even having a relationship, it has been will be resolved in the end, obviously. And after having the dilemma of Chase's fear of commitment, they fought, and then she found a comet from looking through the telescope, and then they made up afterwards near the conservatory, is that what they call it? And happily ever after, I guess. And I've rated this book 4 stars because I love the relationship and the dynamic between the two of them. And then there's also the relationship between them with the other characters, even including Ash and Emma from previous books. But I think that the tension and the fear of commitment drags a little too long, that it kind of deduct the 5-star vibe for me. And then the third book of the series is called The Wallflower Wager, and it involved Penelope and Gabriel. So in this book, Gabriel moved to be Penelope's neighbor, and he's there to fix up the property and then trying to resell it at a higher price. And his story is he rose from rags to riches, and apparently he's famous for having such a brutal way of gaining himself to the top, finding out like the shadiness of some sort of family and then trying to gain advantages through that. And Penelope has been a spinster, I guess, and she was accepted to be a spinster with her animals, but her family said no, and her auntie proposed that if she's not going to any socials and get rid of her animals and dress better, in a sense, she will drag Penelope back to the countryside and live her spinster life in a quieter side rather than in the city center. And Penelope doesn't want that, neither does Gabriel, because the point of him residing there or even fixing up that place is because Penelope was brought up in a rich family. So he said that the property's value got higher because people want to live near her who have the title. I think she's called a lady or something. And she explained the fact that she is in that fiddle situation, and Gabriel accepted to help her out if she were to stay in that place. So they went on an adventure of trying to fix up her situation, and it comes with a really funny situation, really sad to realize in a way, because they came from such different background, and then when they were faced in certain situation, for example, the way she treated animals are even better than the way Gabriel was brought up. I thought, wow, so how would they come into such a middle ground? And the value of money for them are quite different too. The best scene, I think, in this book is near the ending, where it was the wedding scene, and so Gabriel always have a shilling with him, which is a penny coin kind of thing, in his pocket, just in case. And on his wedding scene, there was a coin and I don't want to spoil it to you, but I thought that was the sweetest kind of gesture in a way that he could come across, because he was like portrayed as such brute. I thought there's no way that this guy is that kind of like, you know, animalistic or even that savage. There must be some soft spot for him, right? And I think this is it. I melted for like 3 seconds after. So then we found out that in her childhood she had like such trauma, which is the reason why she collected these kind of rescue animals to protect them and stuff like that, which I thought, when after I found out, was quite saddening. And I think there should be kind of like the way that Tessa resolved this was quite good in a way, because it's not Gabriel that fixed the problem, but Penelope herself, which is good because it promotes, like, you know, a good point where, you know, your growth should be with you rather than somebody to fix you. Maybe I'm just a bit too deep right now, but this book I've rated 4 stars. It's really sweet. Although it's 4 stars, I think it's a better 4 stars than the previous book with Alexander and Chase, because Gabriel was ready to fight for her honor when, like, he was confronted with her abuser, like, sleeves out. I was ready to have, like, you know, that fighting scene, but it didn't happen, thankfully, or not thankfully. But yeah, this book was entertaining, and I was ready to read her other series. I think it's called the Spindle Cove series, which I'm in the middle of the first book. But so far, I think this book series, well, this book, the first book in particular, but I find it really slow for me to read it rather than like this series. Maybe because there are more pages, but maybe I'll put this book to read later on. I was surprised because this book, remember what I mentioned earlier, is actually the Spindle Cove series, and I've read this like pretty quickly in like one night. So I was surprised that the first book took me forever. I tried to read it for like 3 days and I still haven't finished it. I put it down so many times, so I might read it later on. And I've mentioned on Instagram that I'm trying out to have like a reading vlog, and it's supposed to be for Corrupt, but I didn't do it. And instead, I think I would suggest to have the 4th book, which I mentioned in the previous video, that I want to read and for my next video. But I think, like, you know, maybe I should do a reading vlog for it, so I'll try out something new rather than wrap up videos. And yeah, this book is actually chunkier than the previous book. Even Kill Switch, I think, is only like half the size of this. But yeah. So let me know if you have any other video suggestions or even books recommendation that you would like me to read. And so far, that is it for me and my reading since early March. And if you've watched this far, thank you very much. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!